Hello and welcome to another episode of the Field of 68's off-season grades. Rob Dosser here. I got Mike Latulip with me, and today we are going to talk through one of the teams, Mike, that I think you and I both fell in love with probably about early December last year. And
Preseason for me.
preseason for
You
you.
remember, I was on
Preseason
I
for
was
you.
on them. I swayed you, and then they
You
proved me
did.
right up until
You
my
know,
birthday on December 7th, pretty much.
yeah, till the wheels fell off. But that wasn't a bad day for you, though. That was a pretty good day. You
Good
know,
day.
that or Oregon didn't look great for you, but it was your birthday, and that was when Illinois looked like they were that you might as well hang a banner for that one, right? Beat Oregon by 30 in Oregon.
Yeah. Right.
Hang the banner, Mike. Um, no, Oregon's had some changes. There was some turnover this offseason. I think the biggest name that they lost was probably TJ Bamba. I don't know if you would agree with that, but Barthelomew's gone. Brandon Angel is the guy who I thought was going to have a
Gracie.
much better impact. Is gone. Jadrian Tracy is down in at VCU. But the good news is you bring back Jackson Shelstead, bring back Nate Biddle. Your best point guard, your best five man, the anchors of your roster, two guys that could be all league guys. Kwame Evans is back. A couple of role guys are back, and you go out and you add TK Simpkins, who is a stud from Elon. I love him. Devin Pryor. You get Des Lindsey eligible, who I believe redshirted last year, a JUCO transfer coming in from Southwest Florida or Florida Southwest or one of those. Sean Stewart has joined the program, a couple of freshmen. You got a big 6'11 Turkish guy. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. I think my opinion is that they've left themselves a little bit short, but when you have Jackson Shelstead and Nate Biddle, you're kind of betting on you have the best one on the floor and the best five on the floor.
It's hard to view this offseason for Oregon as anything other than a success because of that, right? Because of Shellstad and Biddle and Evans, for that matter, being back into the fold. Now, there's some definite question marks, I think, particularly at the wing spot and with some of their guard depth, because I think the way they've constructed this roster, Shellstead cannot, one, play 32 minutes a game this year. It's got to be more, probably 35 plus. And two, he cannot be fourth in usage on this team. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where I think this all starts. So like I think we'll get into the pieces themselves, but when they struggled last year down the stretch, actually I shouldn't even say down the stretch. Down the stretch, they kind of figured things out. That meat of the season in January and kind of into February when they lost whatever it was, like 7 of 8 or 6 of 7. Um, there were just times where I think their lack of physicality and athleticism hurt them. And when you look at Devin Pryor, Sean Stewart, the Demir kid from Turkey who's 6'11", is this Vatan kid coming in who I just saw like highlights of that they got last week? He's like 6'10", dunking on everybody. Like, is this guy going to be on the roster this year? I don't know. But there's very clearly, um, you know, Altman made it a point to go get a little like freakier athletically, I
Mm-hmm.
think. And they definitely did that because I think they want to control the glass a little bit more than they did last year because those are the things that travel and help you win more consistently in the Big Ten Conference. So overall, I think it was a solid offseason, but we'll get into the nitty gritty here.
Yeah. So here's my take on it, right? I feel like the the way that they wanted to build this team is similar to what we said. For people listening, go back and listen to the UCLA episode because we talked quite a bit about this, right? You got a guard that you want to be able to allow kind of get a paint touch. You got a big man that can be a pick and pop guy that can step out and knock down a three. And around that, you're going to want players that can shoot to be able to create space for you, right? And I'm just not convinced that they have enough role guys that are going to allow Shellstead and Biddle the space that they need to be able to operate the way that you need them to be able to operate. And I love TK Simpkins. I think he's the perfect role guy for that. Devin Pryor shot 18% from three, didn't even attempt one per game. Des Lindsey is a guy that, when he was at Florida, was not exactly known for being the most engaged defender, right? Florida Southwesterns, whatever the JUCO was, he was at. Sean Stewart is, yeah, he's Sean Stewart. He is what he is. So I don't know if the pieces fit the way that I would want the pieces to be able to fit. And I also, one thing that kind of I go back and forth on with Nate Biddle is you have a guy that can be a rim runner, right? That can be a lob threat, and you also have your pick and pop five. I don't know if it's a great thing if they're the same guy when the guy they'd be playing next to at the four isn't really either one of those things. Does that make sense? It feels like you're going to lack the spacing that you really need for both Shellstead and Biddle to be able to be as effective as I would want them to be.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I think you're gonna have to have Biddle. I mean, Demir's gonna play. The dude from Turkey is gonna play. I mean, that dude's a freak, and I think can you do you just end up spacing Bill a little bit more? Because I like Biddle's not the type of guy you can play 32 minutes a game. So that's why Demir's in there. And so can you space Biddle, play him at the five, space him a little bit more? Can you post him a little bit more to go more like four out, one in to give Shellstead more room to operate? We talked about that with UCLA too, like how they
Mhm.
want to play with their 4-5 to give these point guards more space. Because I just think going back to Shellstad, he's going to have to play like boo booey minutes this year. I truly believe that. Like he's going to have to go like 37, 38 minutes a game. I don't know if you can afford to have him playing, 8 to 9 minutes on sitting on the bench for 8 to 9 minutes of a game. I just because I don't know who that dependable ball handler is. Like TK Simpkins, he played in ball screens a bit at Elon, but like was much more suited as like run him off of screens,
Yep.
create gravity off of your like off ball actions, and that's where I think he can be this year. I think Bamba leaves, Bartholomew leaves, Tracy leaves, and almost like I'm starting to convince myself with Oregon, there's like a less is more thing with them because Shellstad, like this will give him more room to be less deferential, like he was with Bamba and he was with Tracy. Like Bamba and Bartholomew like brought that offense to a halt sometimes. Shellstad isn't suited to be off ball. And the other thing with Shellstad too is we talked about this in last offseason grades, and I made the point that he has this habit of because it goes back to the spacing thing. He has this habit of super quick off the bounce, and the second he gets physicality around the free throw line, he picks the ball up. And he doesn't allow himself to get to that last layer of the defense consistently until like the last 5 games of the year last year. He was like, I'm getting downhill and I'm scoring at the rim, or I'm trying to score at the rim because if I don't get there and guys collapse, I can spray it out to other guys. That's been like a bad habit of Shellstad's over the years. And I think that has to be more consistent this year. Like trying to get to that last layer of the defense, not picking the
If
ball up
you
or
ever, I'm gonna have to text Dana Altman because if he ever figures out a way to solve that problem, I have a couple pretty good guards that my son plays with at the 10U level who have that exact same issue, right? They get by someone as soon as they feel contact, they stop. It's not even a jump stop. You just start skating to a stop and it's a travel. And it's just like, guys,
well,
you're
and the thing with
go.
Shellstead,
You're faster than him. Just go to the rim and
go.
make a layup. You
Yeah.
can, I promise you can get there. Just step
Yeah.
and finish. Step and
And he like
finish.
again, he got a lot of his work in transition and stuff, but like he grew in the half court as the season went on. That like he's a guy that, hey, when I get that angle, I can go. Because there were times where he got the angle, had his guy on an angle, and then like combo dribbled back to the 3 point. Like it was crazy. Like, and I think part of it is with Bamba and Tracy and Bartholomew, like I think he did become deferential at times. And so now I think there's a very clear cut plan for him, which is like, hey, dude, you're our freaking guy, and we need you for 37 minutes a game, and the
Mhm.
ball's in your hands, and you're like, can you be a 16 to 17 point per game guy, knowing that you don't get to the free throw line a ton? Like that has to be come from the aggression getting downhill, which maybe leads to getting to the free throw line more. So I know that's like a long soliloquy on Jackson Shellstad, but I mean he's the key. I mean, maybe we'll get into like other X factors, but like he kind of has to be their engine this year. And there were just too many times last year where I feel like he wasn't, and he needed to be to take that next step.
Yep. Though I agree. That's literally what I have written down for X Factor. Is like, is Shellstad going to be the guy that we all thought he was? He had the ability to be when he was a freshman, right? Like, because we saw those moments and we saw those flashes, and it's been 2 years, and we're still kind of waiting for the eruption, right? Like, because when he
Yeah.
got there after his first year, I remember thinking like, okay, this is Peyton Pritchard part two, right? And he's kind of been the same guy over the course of the last few years. Or Oregon overall, I feel like has kind of been an interesting spot here because it feels like they haven't come out of COVID the way that they were going in, if that makes sense, right? Like if you remember, like the Final Four in 2017, they made four other second weekends between 2013 and 2021. They were they would have been like a top four seed in 2020 if the tournament happened. They were the number one seed in 2016, and they just have not quite gotten back to that level and found that level of consistency that they had before everything shut down. I don't know if that's there have been rumors about Dana Altman retiring and whether or not he's still his heart is still in this, blah blah blah. There's for guys that have been in places for 16 years, you tend to hear that a lot. So I don't know if there's any legitimacy to it, but that's one of the things that's been interesting to me, which is kind of where like my expectations are for this team. They have when you have a point guard as good as Shellstead and you have a five man as good as Biddle, you should be a top 25 team, right? And you're Oregon, you got Nike money, you're in the Big Ten. You should have enough pieces around those two studs, those two, look, tell me if I'm wrong, all conference caliber studs,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
That
For
you
sure.
should be a top 25 team. You probably should be able to win a game in the tournament. And I don't know if Oregon is a top 25 team to me this year.
They're not. But we've seen Altman, whether it's being a lower seed in the NCAA tournament, like it's almost like when he has these lower expectations,
Mm-hmm.
he tends to exceed them. But what you're alluding to with like the bookends of Shellstad and Biddle in that lineup is okay. What do we get from the guy from Turkey coming over to the States? What do we get from Devin Pryor? Right. There's very like if they want to play fast, that definitely suits Devin Pryor. Like, he was great in limited action and transition for Texas. He was great. Half court, not so much when you're kind of just, you got a number of guys that needed to be fed in that Texas offense. But Simpkins too. I mean, I just think can again, less is more potentially with this Oregon team, where it's like Shellstad is our main handler. We want high ball screens, back action with Simpkins. We want Pryor to run the floor and be like a menace on the offensive glass, trying to track down and pursue basketballs. Demir can come in and be a lob threat. He's an offensive rebounder. Biddle is kind of a, almost a jack of all trades five. Like we've seen it with, I think about like Houston last year, and I'm not comparing Houston and Oregon, but what made Houston a really good offensive team was like everybody did what they were good at.
Mm-hmm.
The only guys that took threes were the guys that were good at taking threes. And it's just like, can you lift yourself up as a team this year by just playing to your strengths? Because that can win you games. That can win you 3 to 4 games and be a 3 to 4 win swing throughout a conference slate if you're just like, hey, every single night we play to who we are. Because I felt like they kind of had that in the beginning of last season, where they came into the Players Era event and it was like, whoa, their activity, they're taking your ball, they're flying around, they're trapping, they're forcing turnovers. And that's like San Diego State and it's Alabama. There's a good teams that they beat, A&M. And then all of a sudden they just kind of lost that. They lost their bite as the season went on. So I don't know. I think that's kind of where I'm at with this team. I have them, I think like eighth, maybe eighth, ninth preseason in the Big Ten. And I think there's a large range of outcomes for
Yep.
them.
Yep. I tend to agree with all of that. So, give me your grade, off-season grade, Oregon Ducks.
B. I think it's a B just because Shellstad and Biddle carry a lot of weight in that. I think you had a pretty clear plan. I would have loved to see them retain Jadrian Tracy. I think that would just give them a little bit more like dependable wiggle on the wing. But I do like the fact that I at least think they have a plan. They very clearly upgraded from an athleticism and physicality standpoint, which
Mhm.
should travel well. So that's why I had them as a B. It's successful because you got those retention pieces back, but a lot of question marks with some of these guys that are going to have to pop, whether they were, didn't do it at a previous high major school or are now coming up to the high major ranks and have to be really dependable to produce.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Yeah, I mean, I literally the exact same thing. You cannot overlook the fact that that they're bringing back Jackson Shellstead and Nate Biddle, right? Retention is it's the name of the game in college basketball right now. Bring back your all league guys. They brought back their all league guys at the point and at the 5, no less. I don't love the stuff that they did, but I don't hate it.
I'll throw Evans in there. I'll throw Evans in there too. I think Evans can take a real step forward. And that's a really good piece defensively as well.
I said the exact same thing about him last season. So let's see if one of him or Michelle said actually takes that step forward. So no, we're on the same page, man. There's a high floor for what this Oregon team will be this year because you have a really good point guard and a really good 5. I just wonder what their ceiling is going to end up beating. Listen, this has been the offseason grades. Make sure you check out our podcast feed. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel. We have probably, by the time you're hearing this, good 30 of these episodes up there ready for you to go check out. So make sure you do that. Subscribe while you are there. And we will hopefully have another 10 to 15 of these coming out throughout the start of September and the end of August. So for Mike Latula, my name is Rob Dosser. College basketball season's almost here, guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode.